Good evening, everybody. Good evening. There were just some tech issues. I wanted to just tidy everything up. Now, firstly, I want to just confirm you can all hear me. Could I just have a thumbs up, please, if possible, just to make sure that everybody is able to hear me? Thank you. Thank you so much. So, I'd request everybody to kindly mute themselves. And what we are going to be talking about today is a subject which is very important, very pertinent, but nobody talks about it. And before I get started, I want to do a little poll. I want to actually ask you guys a question. So I hope you're okay with that. And this is going to be very anonymous. So please, and it's a very simple question, and I probably can tell the answer to it, but this is the question. Can you all see this question? And let me read it out to you for those of you who are not able to see it. Is being in a happy, supportive relationship can boost your immune system, true or false? What do you think is true? And I think it's a very obvious thing that's the reason why you are here. But we know, and all of you have given the correct answer, which is that it does impact your immune system. So today, friends, we are going to be taking a very evidence-based approach to how relationships impact our overall health and well-being. So let me just go up to my correct slide, and I'm going to just take it over from here. So the impact of relationships on our health is critical. I think everybody who is watching this webinar either now or who may be watching the recording of it will agree that we are on a journey of lasting health and wellness. And if we don't understand what is impacting our overall health and well-being, well, we will always be going around in circles. And you know how the famous philosopher Aristotle said that if you keep doing the same things, you'll keep getting the same results. And there is a lot of truth to that. So today's purpose is education. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Arun Dheer. I'm an associate professor with La Trobe University. I'm also a surgeon. But my whole life mission is really around educating people, empowering them with evidence-based knowledge, and enabling them to take positive action in their lives. That's my life mission, and I'm just so grateful that I'm with an amazing team, and I'm grateful to Coach Monique, who's here with us, and she's my co-host, and also to one very special guest who will be coming in a little bit later. I'm going to keep that as a bit of a suspense, but there is this power of what we call as lived experience. A person who has understood, who witnesses these things in their lives. They're not a professor or a PhD or whatever, but there is a lot of strength in learning and hearing from people who are living the day-to-day experience. So with that background, I want to get started. Firstly, the focus may appear to be on men's health, but I think the concepts that I'm going to be talking about are going to be equally relevant to both men and women. So please do not feel that this is relationship advice. I'm not doing marriage counseling. I don't claim to be an expert in that space, not at all. But I think I'm just sharing with you observations that I have seen over the course of my 3 decades of practice as a medical practitioner, as a surgeon, and also some evidence. So I'm going to be showing you with sharing some studies with you, and they're not going to be overly complex things, but when I present evidence to you in a scientific manner, you start to understand the basis behind it. And there is this thing which is called as the outside-inside gap. And the story goes somewhat like this, that this person looked really good on the outside, he looked happy, but something happened and there was a sudden heart attack when they were just, say, 50, 52 years of age, and that was the end of story. Now, I know we can all pick up such people in our own lives, and we are going to be just questioning that, what was going on inside that person that led to that sudden event. And, we could give an explanation to ourselves, but perhaps if we don't look deeper and we don't understand this, we will always be once again repeating the same mistakes. You know, as they say, this is how most men are raised, or at least this is how I saw men being raised in this society when I was a boy, growing up as a teenager. And now I saw that men are often conditioned to appear strong and self-reliant. But this strength can turn into silence, and silence over time becomes suffering. So I think if I can just summarize all of this in one word, what I've observed is men tend to bottle up things. We all experience our emotions in different ways. And I'm not just talking about happy, joyous emotions. Of course, we express happiness, but we suppress the negative emotions. That's what we are conditioned to do. That's what society conditions us to do. But if you see the statistics, this was published in an American sort of CNBC study, and they said the number of avoidable deaths in men by country was highest in the United States. This is 337 deaths per 100,000 males. But for the number of males that are in our country, in Australia, you can see 178 avoidable deaths. And if you look further into it, there was, and I'll touch upon this, that relationships are playing a very key component in determining our health. Now, a lot of people equate health to your physical health or your weight. That's it. But really, health, as I have discussed this in a previous webinar, there are 5 dimensions to health. And this is by the World Health Organization. It is your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your social health, and your spiritual health. So there are these 5 domains that we talk about. Because at the end of the day, we got to understand that we human beings are social beings. We seek meaningful connection. And I think what relationships do is they affect how our mental processes kind of, function. And very importantly, we know that people who have got strong social ties, they just live longer, up to 50%, as you can see the study which was published in PLOS in 2010. And you can look up the Blue Zone study. Blue zones were zones across the globe. They were studied by scientists. And why are people living so long in these zones? So longevity was a key common denominator in these zones. And one of the key things that they had in their society was social connection. So we know that toxic relationships lead to increased inflammatory markers in the body. They lead to issues with gut health. Stress hormone is causing ulcers and gut issues. And sometimes straying in a wrong relationship is sometimes more damaging than being alone. Now, here is a question for all of you. Do you believe that there is a hormonal connection with how we are feeling? So there is, just like, if I can explain my question a little bit further, there's not a quiz and there's not a trick question either. The question really is that just like we have a stress hormone which increases inflammation in the body, do you think there is a hormone in the body which reduces inflammation? Is there a hormone like that exists? Just a yes or no. You can give a thumbs up. I don't have a specific quiz for you, but if the thumbs up is yes, thumbs down is no, or I don't know. Anybody who wants to give a thumbs up or thumbs down? Yes? All right. Well, I've got one person who has answered, and the correct answer is yes, there is a relationship of that description, which we'll talk about in a moment. So, close family and friends reduce the risk of heart disease by up to 30%, which is amazing. And Monash University did this study, and what they found was that being married or partnered was actually good for your health. All right, I'm not trying to sort of, I'm just relating the results of the study, and this is all based on social connection. That's all. I'm not advocating that go and get married or go and get separated. Please don't take that as marital advice. But what is important is to understand how these relationships are impacting your health and well-being. They also found that a man with 3 to 8 relatives that he could discuss private matters with reduced the risk of heart issues by almost 30%. Now, private issues mean sometimes, you know how I said a moment ago that we tend to bottle up things within us. That's what most of the men do. So it reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and all of that. But here was, and this, by the way, was published in this link that I'm sharing with you that you can check, and you can check it out yourself. But also, the feeling of love and connection reduces your blood pressure, reduces your cortisol levels, and it also boosts oxytocin, which is your feel-good hormone. So it's well known that this dose of happiness is actually these 4 hormones: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, which is produced by your gut, and endorphins, which is what you get when you exercise hard or go to the gym. You release endorphins and they take away the pain. So the question then becomes is why men's health matters. Now, again, it's not just exclusive to men, but I think if you have anybody, if it's a lady who's listening to it, you would be able to understand what the dynamics of the sort of, the relationship is, because men and women process things differently. This is a silent epidemic about men's health. It's not just about cholesterol. It is actually disconnectedness and boredom, and it is invisible in the sense that, men, it is well known, die younger than women globally by 5 years. This is the longevity studies. 70% of the men don't seek help for mental health issues. And we tend to blame our genetics, our biology, and all of that. But reality is that it's a behavioral thing. This graph is showing you difference between the life expectancy between men and women. And you can see the disparity as we progress from 1890s, 1910, that disparity is starting to increase more and more and more. And this is showing how the two genders are processing it differently. So essentially what I'm trying to get at over here is there is a very strong relationship between relationships or connection and that of our health. Loneliness, as is being seen today, and we seem to be in a hyper-connected world with Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and you tell me about it, but loneliness is now considered to be similar to smoking about 15 cigarettes a day. And that is really a significant thing. This is a study once again. And men often tend to invest their identity in external things, like they are a role of provider, protector, partner, and those kind of things. And what happens is you start to neglect yourself. And I think studies are showing that when we lose that intimate relationship, not just with our partners, but also with ourselves, we kind of tend to lose what is called as the purpose. And that plays a significant role in our overall health and well-being. Again, loneliness rivals obesity and smoking, as I've just said to you, and also puts you at a higher risk of Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, early death. Now, I just want to preface this over here that, connection does not necessarily always have to be with an external person. I think the first and the foremost connection is that with yourself. If you do not have a good connection and a happy connection with yourself, if you're not happy in your own company, how can you make somebody else happy? So that's the first premise I try to sort of go to. So connection is not just nice to have, it is very essential to have, but the first connection is that with yourself before you start to look externally. And when we look at certain behaviors in other people, it's very easy to judge anyone. But you got to see that, I found this image very pertinent because it's talked about like the iceberg. There is so much more stuff below the surface that we do not see. And I think as a society, we tend to just judge somebody either on their appearances or on their behavior. But below any behavior, there is a feeling. Below the feeling is a trigger, and below the trigger there is a wound, and then there is a need that is there to kind of, fulfill or heal that wound, I should say. So I think if we looked at that, and I'll come to some practical aspects of what we can do now to overcome all of this. The first and the foremost thing also is observed that, we tend to self-neglect. If we don't have a good connection with ourselves, we tend to neglect ourselves, like missed checkups, missed doctor appointments, sleeping over, alcohol and drug abuse and things like that. And also, very importantly, self-neglect isn't just laziness. It's a symptom of lost purpose. Again, I'm talking more in context of men, but this could apply equally to women as well. So there is also this thing called as burnout. You're tired. I hear this often from women, especially in their middle age when they come to see me. Their one common theme statement is that I have been giving of myself all my life. Now it is my time. This is what they say. And I can tell you, I often think about it, that why can't we address this through knowledge in the beginning so there is a balance? You're not feeling that you've been just giving of yourself all through your life and trying to fix things with quick fixes, So how do we start to understand that there is an opportunity? In light of this knowledge, we can rebuild and reconnect? So first thing is, you got to firstly allow yourself the ability to express and acknowledge that there is a issue. All right. Unless we address that, we will never be able to address the real issues. So you got to find a safe space, whether it is with a professional sort of, counselor, or it is with some friends or whoever you feel comfortable with to seek advice from. We got to also think about masculinity. Masculinity is not just about muscles and being strong. It's also really demonstrating inner strength as well. And then, of course, very importantly, as I said, showing up in a way that, yes, I go for my regular checkups, I seek advice should I need help in a certain area, and also purpose mapping. Again, as I said to you, that when men lose purpose, or when we lose purpose as human beings, we start to go into a state of self-sabotage or self-neglect. I truly believe that meaningful connections have the ability to heal you. I'm not saying they're going to just replace medicine altogether, no, but I'm just saying that's an important part of the healing process. So we got to get intentional about it, reconnecting with loved ones. Who knows, if there is a broken relationship or a grudge that we have been carrying with anybody, there is an opportunity to think about forgiveness. Love, empathy, and purpose are life-extending forces, and it has been well documented. I think it is really critical to understand that a man with purpose is a man with power. And this can be applied to men and women again, but not the brute kind of man, but the kind that builds a life worth living. So I want to just acknowledge that, there is so much science that I found when I was researching this subject. I don't want to bore you with too many studies, but I think it is important that, we recognize the power that healthy relationships have in terms of healing us, in terms of providing those opportunities for us to have a collective approach towards, because we can be role models, right? And that's what we are, to showcase to others that, there is hope. So what I say to people is that, okay, how do you start connecting? How do you start this social journey? Number one, connect with purpose. You could volunteer, you could mentor, you could help somebody who you see is struggling. That's a relationship as well. And in giving is when we receive. That's really critical to understand. Rebuild relationships, prioritize real conversations, heal past emotional wounds. I know it's easier for me to set in than it is to do it, but if you don't even become aware and start the journey, once again, we will sort of, keep doing the same things. Check in, not just out, so go for your health checkups, go to your GPs, know your numbers, very important. What is your hemoglobin? What is your iron levels? What is your vitamin D levels? It is important that you know it and you take interest in your own health and well-being. Then exercise. I've talked a lot about exercise, and I think suffice it to say, there's just one sentence that I use to describe exercise, and that is motion can change your emotion. Another way of saying it is your biology can be changed by your psychology. What that means is that when you start moving, you actually start to change your mental patterns. And when you change your mental patterns, you start to take different actions. And I often talk about the gut, reset your gut, because when you start cutting back on processed foods and you add good quality fiber and you manage stress, you impact the gut-brain connection. And I think that's where it is really important to understand how all these things are very critical. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got a couple more slides that I want to actually, so for the women who are on the call, I want to say that take this information, but don't try and influence or impact or force change on the men in your life, whether it's your husband, your partner, your father, your brother, whatever it is. But recognize these things and assist with empathy, assist with them, whoever are the men in your life, with empathy, because that is going to be far more effective. Now, this quote from Kobe was really powerful, that if you don't believe in yourself, no one will do it for you. So for anybody who's on this call, I would say that you got to understand that you got to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to do that for you. So without further ado, let me invite our guest for this webinar, that is Dominic Frisina. Dom, welcome to the webinar. Could I request you to please unmute yourself, and if you could kindly come and also bring your camera on as well, that'll be greatly appreciated. There you are. There you are. Thank you so much for coming, Dom.
That's okay.
And I don't know how this topic resonates with you, but I know you work with men, in the sense that, you know, you work in an organization which has got men from different age groups. So before we get into that, Dom, I want you to just share with us a little bit of your journey. And I saw the beautiful photos of your transformation, the before and afters. But tell me a little bit about how was that old Dom? How was he functioning? And what was the thought patterns over there?
Look, it was terrible. It's exactly what you were saying. My mental state, with just being around people and all that, I just didn't want to be there. I just didn't want to be a part of anyone, and that wasn't me. And it just really dragged me down. And that was day by day. I didn't even want to go out of the night time. I didn't want to socialize. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to come home, sit on the couch and eat.
Yeah, you were bottling things up.
Oh yeah,
There
yeah,
was
big
some
time.
frustration at some level. Now, I know, Dom, and if you're okay with it, can I just share that where do you work, or can you share
Yeah,
with us?
no,
And
no, go for it, go for it.
so Dom is heavily involved with the CMFEU, and you see people in different stages of their life, I'm sure, at your work.
Yeah.
What do you see now with this knowledge, with this transformation now that you have gone through yourself? What is it that do you see a reflection of your past in some men that you work with?
Yeah, look, I do. And I can actually pick up on people that were in my space. I'm in a different space now with the weight loss that I've, gone through, and all that. My headspace is just so much clearer now, and I can communicate with people. So my conversation and, walking around and meeting different people and seeing, some of them were in my headspace. And as you know, I've passed them on to yourself, and they've come in to see you, and they are just different people again. So it's just been mind blowing.
So, Dom, can I ask you, what was your tipping point? Like, when did you come to a decision that I'm doing this repeat every day? This is again before you had your treatment and all of that. you would come home, you'd be tired, you'd eat, and you'd watch TV perhaps, or do whatever else, you know.
Yeah.
When did you reach a tipping point that I want to change this, and what caused you to do that?
Well, it got to the stage that I was going to sleep at night, but I had the CPAP machine.
Yes.
My cholesterol was high, pre-diabetic. I had no energy. I wouldn't do anything. And I went to my doctor, and she said, "Look, you can stay as you are, but you're playing Russian roulette. You need to do something to fix it up." And that's where I got involved with yourself. And I just wanted to change because sleeping with that machine, because I was snoring and, not breathing sometimes, it just scared me. It just scared the hell out of me.
Yeah. And by the way, I just wanted to let everybody know, if you have a question for Dom, please put it in the chat box. We'd be happy to relay that for you. So Dom, moving forward, fast forward, what, 18 months? How long ago did you have your procedure?
Well, actually, it'll be coming up this September, will be 3 years.
3 years. Wow.
Yeah.
So what are the challenges that you have experienced over the course of the last, let's say, 2 years? Because first year we often say is like a honeymoon, you know, things are just happening on their own,
Yeah.
right?
I've I've really had no challenges. I think it's been a whole change of my life, like being more physical, going out, socializing. I come home and now my wife says to me, "Can you sit down for 5 minutes?" Because I just want
Right,
to move all the time. I don't have a CPAP machine. My
right.
cholesterol's perfect, and not even pre-diabetic or anything. I'm eating proper, and the main I thought which was going to be really hard was changing from the stupid food that I was eating, and now just saying, okay, well, I don't really need that. I'm eating this, and my brain's a lot like I feel fresher. I feel alive.
Yeah. And you know what? It's very interesting. And for those of you who are hearing this from Dom, I think this is the power of the change in the gut brain connection. I've
Yeah.
often said this, the first thing that I hear from my patients when they come back, and I'm not trying to promote surgery, you can do this with your diet as well, right? The moment you change your diet, you start to realize that your gut microbiome is changing, which is the bacteria that live in your gut. And they communicate with your brain, and they are starting to send different signals. Surgery just accelerates that process. So that's the difference between it. Dom, can I ask you, how have your relationships changed with others? I'm not asking about your relationship with your wife, but I mean, clearly you are a reflection of the person, how you are at home and how you are outside.
Oh, totally changed. Totally changed. And people have actually noticed, just in the way I present myself now, and just talking to people, chatting with people. I feel alive. I really do. It's just been a huge change. And as you know, I've lost a lot of weight. And now I've got to that stage now that I'm happy. I'm exercising every morning. I'm walking 6 to 8 kilometers before I go to work, and I start at 6:30 a.m. So I'm up at 4 o'clock. But I don't have a
Wow.
problem with it. It's great. And when I get to work, I'm alive.
Yeah, you're fresh. You're
Oh
fresh
yeah.
because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not tired from carrying that extra weight, right?
No, no.
Beautiful. One other question that I get asked often is that when I meet people who are in 2 or 3 years or beyond after their weight loss surgery, they have this one fear in their mind, and the fear is of weight regain. Have
Mhm.
you experienced that fear, and how have you handled that?
Yeah, look, I have, and it does come and go. Sometimes when you eat now, you can only eat so much,
Yeah.
and sometimes you've just gone that little bit over, and then you think to yourself, "Oh wow, have I just put on weight, or am I going to put on weight, or whatever?" It
Yeah.
doesn't. I mean, you control it, but that's been the only fear that I've ever had.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you don't live in that state of fear. You are mindful about it. And
Correct.
and I often say this, as long as 80% of the time you're doing the right thing, you can have a piece of chocolate cake or a glass of wine or whatever you may want to occasionally, right? As long
Yep,
as most of the times you're doing the right thing.
correct, correct.
Excellent. Dom, there is somebody who has congratulated you in the comment section. And, I will also want to introduce Monique, who's our coach, Healthy Habits coach. Thank you, Monique, for coming in. And I'm going to share just a couple of slides that Monique has got. But before that, Monique, did you have any questions, comments for Dom, please?
Yeah, I absolutely did. So I think, Dom, one of the things that you spoke about was sort of this change that you felt, that feeling of being alive. I wanted to ask for the people who are listening, was there a change perhaps in your authenticity with yourself, that honesty with yourself and how you related to other people? Was there more this authentic Dom that arrived, with the confidence that came?
Yeah, I think there was. I think you're spot on there because, like I said, the way I was feeling before was just dreadful. So yes, it did change a lot.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that, people would want to find out from you is, Arun had spoken to you about, what was that tipping point. But if we're talking about, the transition before and after, are there any regrets that you might have, from either the journey beforehand or, post surgery? Are there any regrets along the way that you think are important to talk about?
Look, it was quite scary at the first when I initially decided I'm going to go that way. That was quite. Yeah, that was scary to know because look, I used to just eat whatever, and then I knew that all that was going to change. So just that first part was the scariest for me. But after that, wow, I've never looked back, and there hasn't been a moment that I have. I mean, even Dr. Arun came into my hospital and he was trying to find me because I was walking everywhere and he couldn't find me. So since then, it has just been life changing. I couldn't recommend it to people that are in that space.
Perfect. Actually, on that point, one of the questions was, what procedure did you have?
So I had the gastric sleeve
Mhm.
done, and yeah, I mean, more technical. Dr. Arun could probably answer that.
Sure.
I'm no doctor. He didn't want me to help him in the operation, so
I think the more important thing that I noticed for Dom was that, regardless of whatever procedure you had, you approached it in the right attitude. And that's what
Mm,
I would say. You were prepared. And there
yeah,
is, in medical terms and surgical terms, there is this thing called as prehabilitation, which means educating yourself mentally and emotionally, getting ready for what you are about to do. So, there is a lot of science behind preparing yourself for the success that you want.
yeah.
So, I think that mental programming, I could see the nurses, when I remember when they called me, they said, he's getting bored here, send him home. That's what the nurses told me. So, I think
Yeah,
that's a good sign, of course.
yeah,
It's a very good sign.
yeah. I think it's right what you said before. It's all what's in your gut is controlling your mind, and it's just so true. It is so true because that changed everything for me.
Yeah. It's about understanding that, right? Isn't it? Like, I mean, not many people talk about the gut brain connection, but I think when you understand the evidence and the science behind it, you actually start to recognize that there is so much power that I have within myself to make those small changes.
Correct.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. And Monique, was there any other questions or comments or anything by
Yeah,
the attendees?
there's another question here. And the question is, I'm 1 week post surgery, so congratulations. And the question says, my taste buds have completely changed. Did the same happen for you?
No, I didn't get any changes at all. Um, it was just, to me, it was just normal. But just straight after surgery, I wasn't hungry at all.
Mm,
But as I went, and as you go through the procedure, there was nothing that I couldn't eat. I could eat everything, but my taste buds, yeah, didn't change at all.
Mm.
So you still have taste for McDonald's and KFC.
You know, the funny thing is, if my kids and that want McDonald's, and I
Yeah.
would go for it before. I don't want to touch it now. I would rather, like, I'll get a
Wow.
tuna salad or whatever, and that's they look at me and they say, "This is not you, Dad."
Yeah, I
So
know.
it's pretty good.
I know. That's amazing, isn't it?
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, seems like we are kind of almost, 5 minutes over time. But I think the questions are. I saw just now a
Yeah.
comment that had tried to lose weight by other means prior to surgery. So I kind of, acknowledge that, there are different modalities now, Dom, these days. Medications, newer injections have come. They've become far more popular than perhaps when you had surgery. Do you have any view about it from a community perspective, not a medical perspective?
Yeah, I think from what I've gone through, the injections and all that, and diets, no, it just, to me,
Yes.
that's a short term. This procedure that I got, and I remember your words, and I still remember them today. How you said that this is a tool only.
Hmm.
Okay, I need to use this tool, and that's what I've done. And like I said, we're going on to 3 years, and I
Yeah.
still do exactly what I've been doing since surgery. All these other little phases or whatever, like you said, also a diet. If you've got something at the end of the month, that's great. You can diet there, but you'll always go back, and that's what I kept on doing, time and time again, up
Yeah.
until the surgery.
Mm.
Now that's fantastic. All right. Well, before we wrap up for today, I have got just final 2 slides for Monique. Monique, can I get you to just take over because you're going to do a masterclass pitch for everybody here?
Yes.
Just
So
final 2 slides.
thank you. In the next 2 weeks, so 2 weeks' time from tonight, we will be running our next Genesis Masterclass. And in our masterclass, these are live sessions. We don't record. You have to be there to be able to get the benefit from it. It's cameras off and microphones on. So we're going to be backing up this session, which is going to be on relationships. So we're going to be looking at what is your relationship with food? What is your relationship with friends? Do you feel peer pressure for drinking, for eating, pizza nights, all those sorts of things? Do you have this relationship with your foes? So when you get into arguments or somebody makes you feel a bit uncomfortable, do you go to comfort food to pacify that? So we're going to have a really good deep dive into that and come up with those solutions to help move forward. And this is it. This is about finding your tribe. So it's interactive, supportive, and it is a social group for you. So if you are interested, I would urge you to drop a note in the comments. We're really happy to be able to accept a couple new attendees.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic. Dom, we are really grateful to you for taking out the time to share your insights, your journey. Because look, I often say to my patients, I can give you a truckload of science about things, right? But lived experience, you only got to hear from people who have gone through the journey. Because
Yeah.
that is what is going to give you the inspiration that it can be done. It's not
Yeah.
impossible. People
No.
like Dom are living testament that, where there is a will, there is a way. So I thank you, Dom, for showing up, not only for yourself, but showing up for so many others whose lives you have touched in so many ways. And you continue to do so just by your presence. So amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Monique, for your presence and co-hosting this as well. I look forward to seeing you in 4 weeks' time. So this Success Beyond Scales is a regular event that we are doing first Tuesday of every month. We get inspirational people like Dom, and they share their inner truths, their inner journey, their learnings. So come up, bring your family, bring your friends, whoever you think might benefit from this. I'll see you at the next webinar. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.